Well, the day has come when I will talk about what is probably the most controversial state of our times. Israel, a country that was formed in 1948, but because it is based on the ancient Jewish people, its history dates back to antiquity. Why so much rejection towards this state? Is it legal? In order to give an opinion on this, it is necessary to know its history and origins. Are you interested? Then stay until the end of the video. Before anything, remember to subscribe to the channel. This is the ancient Canaan, a region between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River that in ancient times was divided into small city-states that suffered various invasions from great empires such as Egypt, Assyria, or Babylon. The peoples who inhabited Canaan were mostly Semites, a linguistic group of the Afro-Asiatic family from which important current languages such as Arabian Amharic from Ethiopia and of course Hebrew are derived. Some of these peoples were the Amorites, Philistines, Phoenicians, Arameans, and Hebrews, with the latter being the ones that concern us. According to Hebrew tradition, the well-known 12 tribes of the sons of Jacob, also called Israel, were formed, which when unified gave rise to the ancient kingdom of Israel in the middle of the 11th century BC. The cohesion of the Hebrew people was thanks to a vital factor of identity, their religion, which differed from the rest of the beliefs in the region due to faith in a single God who would have designated them as the chosen people and to whom he would have given the promised land, which they would claim throughout their history. From the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah emerged, which continued to profess the monotheistic religion. In fact, the term Jewish derives from its name, which was its demonym. Both states were assimilated by the Assyrian Empire around the 8th century BC, a period after which an independent Jewish state did not reappear in the region until 1948, except for a short period when the Hasmonean dynasty ruled. As you should already know, here begins a series of countless diasporas of the Jewish people. As for their promised land, it was subsequently occupied by various empires: Babylon, Achaemenid Persia, North Macedonia, Seleucid, and Rome. It's important to highlight the latter because during the Roman era, there were two wars in which the inhabitants of the then province of Judea rose up against the Romans. After the defeat, Judea was dissolved in favor of Syria-Palestine. Yes, here they begin to use the name which derives from the Philistines, ancient adversaries of the Hebrew people. And of course, coincidentally, the current Palestine are the adversaries of the modern Israelis. Anyway, during the Middle Ages, another decisive event occurs: the arrival of a new Abrahamic religion, Islam, at the hands of the various Muslim caliphates that would insert their faith into the region. It's important to highlight that while many Jews were exiled during all these periods, others remained in what they considered the Promised Land. Now, so far we have talked about the Semitic Hebrew people who remained in the Levantine Mediterranean region. And as you may know, talking about the Hebrew people is one thing, and talking about the Jewish religion is another, which you can see in more detail in this video. So what happened to Judaism? To tell the truth, with so many diasporas, the religion did not remain only in the Eastern Mediterranean, but spread throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. In fact, a powerful Jewish state was founded in the Caucasus and expanded to Eastern Europe. I'm referring to the Khazar Khanate, founded by the eponymous Turkic people. Meanwhile, in Europe, new peoples are forming that, while ethnically different from Jewish peoples, such as the Ashkenazi Germanic or Sephardic Hispanics. Returning to the Promised Land, it turns out that in addition to Jews and Muslims, Christians also considered it sacred as it is the place where Jesus Christ would have died. For this reason, Christianity in Europe undertakes the famous Crusades against Muslim control, at that time led by the Seljuk Turks. After the First Crusade, Christians managed to establish various Crusader states. among which the Kingdom of Jerusalem stood out, which extended as far as present-day Jordan, and where they established a European feudal system after committing massacres that did not discriminate between Jews and Muslims. This period, in which the Jews did not fare well at all, would last until the Muslim reconquest in 1291 by the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. By the way, if you're interested in making some extra money without much effort, I have great news for you. Thanks to the Bonomo application, you only need a cell phone, computer, and internet access, which is already available in several countries in the region. Even a small investment can generate income. Let me explain how. Bonomo is a platform where smart investments are made. Here you can perform operations based on trades of about 30 seconds, where the goal is to carefully study the chart and try to predict the movement of the asset. For this, we have some tools such as trend indicators, the amount of money you are willing to invest, and the arrows with which we must indicate whether we believe the asset will go down or up. Here, as you can see, the chart has been going down over time, but it is about to go up, so I will say it will go up. Wow, thanks to my accurate prediction, my income has increased. The best part is that the earnings will go entirely to your account, as no withdrawal fees are charged. And of course, if you want to practice, you can access a demo account of $1,000. Also, on the website, you will find 24-hour support lessons to invest better, practice tournaments, and many more updates. I also invite you to visit their social networks. Waiting for what? Links are in the description. During the Mamluk era, Jews were able to remain in the region without being persecuted, although they had fewer tax benefits than Muslims. The Mamluks of Egypt would fall to the expansion of another Muslim state that would snatch away the hegemony of Islam, the Ottoman Empire. After the Battle of Razania, the territories of present-day Israel are annexed by the Ottomans, who incorporated it into the province of Damascus. Like their predecessors, religious minorities were not persecuted and were allowed freedom of worship while paying more taxes than Muslims, so the Jews were able to remain. It is worth noting that despite the great diaspora, especially throughout Europe, where they also did not have a good time, many Jews longed to return to the Holy Land. This is when various movements emerged that encouraged the return to the lands they considered their own. In 1881, a first major wave of immigration known as Aliyah occurred, where about 30,000 Jews migrated to the province of Damascus, of which of the 470,000 inhabitants, between 20,000 and 25,000 were Jews who predominantly lived in the city of Jerusalem. This is when the figure of Theodor Herzl, a Hungarian activist who founded the World Zionist Organization, emerged. His goal was the creation of a Jewish state in the land of Israel, so he promoted the purchase of lands from the Ottoman authorities in the province of Damascus by Jews with money. During this time, there were several projects for the creation of a Jewish state, not only in Israel, but in other places such as Argentina, Patagonia, Madagascar, Russia, among others. It's important to highlight that migrations would not only be of Semitic Jews, but also of white Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews, who are currently the majority, a fact that some consider as a reason to disqualify the state, since they are not originally from ancient Israel. In this way, the second Aliyah takes place in 1904, in which now 40,000 Jews emigrate to the land of Israel, with which the first tensions between Jews and Arabian Peninsula in the region begin to be appreciated, which would be the predecessors of present-day Palestine. Because of these first steps towards the creation of the Jewish state, Herzl is remembered as the father of Israel, even though he died before its establishment. After the second Aliyah, the first kibbutzim, Jewish agricultural communities in the land of Israel, begin to form. The first of these was Degania, founded in 1909 by a group from Russia. As you may know, we are now in the decline of the Ottoman Empire, which after its defeat in World War I, cedes its last territories in the eastern Mediterranean. In the case of the land of Israel, it is converted into the British Mandate of Palestine. That is, the then League of Nations transferred power to the victorious United Kingdom for its administration. Between 1919 and 1929, a third and fourth Aliyah occurred in which 35,000 and 80,000 Jews immigrated respectively. During this period, the first Arab attacks against Jewish communities occurred, which resulted in the creation of Jewish self-defense paramilitary groups such as Agama. The growing anti-Semitism in Europe led to a fifth Aliyah from 1933, which resulted in the Jewish population in the Mandate, which in 1882 was 8% of the population, rise to almost 30%. What ended up matching both populations was the Holocaust during World War II, after which the number rose to about 600,000 Jewish inhabitants in Palestine, where they would have remained on the sidelines of the horrors that occurred in Europe. Despite this, the British had sought to limit Jewish immigration to avoid further conflicts with the Arabian Peninsula, something that was made impossible by the circumstances. This led to even more outbreaks of violence between Jews and Arabian Peninsula, which included the bombing of the King David Hotel by the Zionist organization Irgun. So the British government decided to withdraw, leaving the resolution of the conflict in the hands of the United Nations. The United Nations General Assembly then approved Resolution 181 with 33 votes in favor and 13 against. In this, it was contemplated to divide the Mandate into two states, one Jewish and the other Arab, which, as you can see on the map, Israel would have much less territory than it currently does. The Arabian Peninsula non-acceptance of this resolution led to a civil war, after which the Jews proclaimed the State of Israel. Immediately afterwards, the 5 neighboring Arab countries declared war on the nascent state. After 14 months of conflicts, in which paramilitary groups formed during the Mandate participated, Israel conquered an additional 26% of territory, while the West Bank and the Gaza Strip were occupied by Jordan and Egypt respectively. This war meant that about 700,000 Arabian Peninsula were displaced from the territories now controlled by Israel, while Jews and Arab countries were also expelled. The Arab-Israeli armistice breaks in 1956 when the Sinai War erupts after Egypt nationalizes the Suez Canal. On this occasion, Israel received support from France and the United Kingdom, with whom, despite inflicting a military victory against Egypt, the Arab country achieved a political victory by maintaining the nationalization of the canal. Although Israel manages to occupy Sinai in just 1 week, it is forced to withdraw. Of course, leaving a precedent of its military might in the midst of an unstable region that found no rest. In 1967, the Six-Day War breaks out, in which, suspecting an imminent Arab attack, Israel launches a preemptive strike against its neighbors, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. In this blitzkrieg, Israel manages to conquer the Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip in Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria, thus reaching its maximum territorial expansion. This war is contemporary with the founding of the Palestine Liberation Organization, whose goal was the destruction of the State of Israel and the return of Palestinian refugees to the territory. This led to the continuation of the Arab-Israeli conflict, with the next episode being the Yom Kippur War during the government of Golda Meir, remembered for her uncompromising policy against her enemies, which earned her the nickname of the Iron Lady. This war occurred after a surprise attack from Egypt and Syria during the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. Thanks to Meir's policy, Israel managed to get international support from the United States, so within the Cold War. Despite the surprise factor, Israel manages to get within 100 kilometers of Cairo and 32 of Damascus, striking another military victory, but in the long run brought political benefits for both Israel and Egypt. These were reflected in the signing of peace between the two countries in the Camp David Accords, through which Egypt commits to recognizing Israel in exchange for the return of the Sinai Peninsula, which represented a significant advancement for peace in the region. Of course, at the expense of the suspicion of the Palestine, who were still fighting for their state. And speaking of the Palestine Liberation Organization, by 1982, it was in Lebanon, which in the midst of civil war is now invaded by the forces of Israel led by Ariel Sharon, who wanted to expel the Palestinian forces from their northern border. Despite achieving another military victory, he ends up withdrawing due to political pressures, while Syria increases its influence in Lebanon, from where the anti-Zionist organization Hezbollah emerges, which rivals with Israel to this day. Returning to internal affairs, the Arabian Peninsula of Israel rise up in the First Intifada, a series of uprisings against the Israeli government in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, due to the terrible social conditions in which the Palestine lived, considered as second-class citizens. Although the uprisings were suppressed, it finally leads to the hate agreements. Here, the Palestinian National Authority is established, which would govern over the Gaza Strip and parts of the West Bank, and would also ensure the cessation of attacks. Despite the above, the Palestine did not achieve a satisfactory improvement, as they rose up in a second intifada, where they were supported by the jihadist organization Hamas. These uprisings, which occurred during the government of now Prime Minister Sharon, were again suppressed and led to the creation of the controversial Israeli Separation Wall, which remains in effect to this day, separating Israel from the West Bank. Things were not going any better in the Gaza Strip, and in 2008 a war broke out, in which Israel once again defeated Hamas. The consequences for the infrastructure in the Strip were catastrophic, leading to a humanitarian crisis that continues to this day. Returning to foreign policy, Israel has secured free trade agreements with the United States and the European Union, both traditionally allies of the Jewish state. On the other hand, relations with the Arab League have been improving. In fact, Jordan also recognized the country, and currently relations have been established with some countries of the Arabian Peninsula, such as Saudi Arabia and State of Kuwait. To be more precise, the vast majority of Arab countries still do not recognize it. And of course, the fact that the tangled conflict with Palestine has not yet been resolved influences this. Would you acknowledge Israel's statehood? What agreements should they reach with Palestine to achieve a definitive peace? Don't forget to leave your comment, and if you like this video, support me with a like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on my social networks, and if you're interested in supporting this project, any donation on Patreon where we can talk about history is welcome. See you next time!